Hey, hi, all. Welcome back to BLR Knowledge Center. In this session, we'll talk about isPostBack property and AutoPostBack. So, isPostBack property basically belonging to the web page, and AutoPostBack belonging to a control, server-side control. So, this isPostBack is used to check if the page is responding to a postback event, like clicking a button. So, this postback happens when the data is sent to the server. Some cases, this postback helps you to identify if postback happens or not. And postback is the name given to the process of submitting an ASP.NET page to a server for processing some action. So if the postback is done, if certain credentials of the page are to be checked against some source, like username and password, using database something, then we definitely use this postback. This is something that a client machine is not able to accomplish that requirement to validate, and thus these details have to be posted back to a server, right? So I can say in a single word, postback is a round trip from the client, that is browser, to the server and then back to the client. So this enables you a page to go through the ASP engine and the server, and any dynamic content to be updated. Okay, so let me quickly get into this demonstration part so that you will understand like what is postback and when actually it is required to be used in ASP.NET. I'm just opening my Visual Studio, page where I have some controls here, like header one. This is for kind of a title, enter name and username and enter password. Two server-side text box controls and two server-side buttons like login and cancel. And you can see the like login screen is appearing this way. Okay. Now when it goes to server, I think I'm just removing this a little bit. In the server side code behind, I don't have any logic here. I'm just having page load, which is still blank. Okay, so when I run this, what happened is it is going to just having UI like two text box controls and two server side buttons. It will appear as the same on my browser, so from wherever I'm browsing it, right? So good. Now I wanted to check whether my postback is happening it or not, because I loaded very first time. It is not a postback; it is normal load. When I hit login or cancel, I must carry these values to server side and check these values are perfectly valid using database or somewhere in the flat file to check the validate the user credentials and then navigate back to other page something. So this really required when you are not able to do a and a validation set client side, like mean browser using JavaScript, then you definitely go to web server, and we should require some kind of logic to send your data to server side, just clicking on button, and that way you need to validate whether it is coming as a postback or not. Okay, let me do one thing. I'm just putting a page tuck point here, and when I click on a button here, after giving some like BRR and BRR $123, when I click on login, so I'll get page break here, like no debugger point. When I check post back, right, it is true. That means this is the post back event fired on clicking on login button, right? So that I can read my username, txt username, right, dot txt, right, and then txt password as well, dot txt, right. Then I'll connect to database and then validate and then say it is valid, right. But when initially it is coming as a load, it will not be postback, right. After once it is loaded and whatever event you are firing to get into submit your page, then that is a postback. It's a kind of round trip from browser to server. So this is the browser client going to server, and from the server again coming to client. This is round trip, is postback event. Okay, let me do one thing. I'm just setting some username dot for color equal to some white txt username, sorry, not text box. I'll do for btn login. Okay, at the same time btn login dot back color equal to system dot This is something blue. Okay. Similarly, cancel button, core color equal to system dot white, right? Cancel dot back color equal to, right? And this is something blue. And if you want to add another kind of login dot font dot style or bold equal to true, right? And again btn cancel dot font dot bold equal to true, right? These are the default things. I just wanted to set it for my buttons. When I run now, right, initial load, when I run this page, I still have tuck point here, my page load, and see like what is the default isPostBack value coming out. So when I come here, right, in my immediate window, this is something you need to open it using Control Alt I, or you just go to view and you can see here different windows here, other windows. So where you can open your immediate window from here itself you want it. Okay, shortcut is Control Alt I, right? It is something which is opening based on this shortcut key or the window you are selecting. Okay, so this is to know the variable values dynamically when page is running. Now I'm checking the isPostBack property. Now it is false because very first time I'm coming here, my property is false. That means it is not a postback event, right? So I'm coming here, I'm setting color, back color, font. Now going to client. Now I can see my buttons are back color blue and white, four colors login and bold, something it happens. Both controls are appearing as per my settings. When I hit this button, again I'm executing same logic, which is duplicating my work, right? I just wanted to apply these styles only one time when it is loaded very first time, but not every time. Okay, so what you will do that? So to do that, I'm going to only apply this if page dot is postback, right? Page dot is postback. Happen. Let me do that. If page dot is postback is false, then only I'm going to apply this. That means very initial load page initial load, right? If it is true, that means else, right? I'm going to say response dot write the given user name is, right. I'll read username dot text. Okay, and same way password. Hmm, right strings, right file, right. What is the problem in that? Okay, let me try this. Okay, so I should specify plus in this, right? And again, this is something plus. So what I'm doing here is, so at the very initial load, I'm going to set my styles, and after that, when the call is coming as a post back, then I'm printing the given details, so that each and every time, the style logic is not going to execute, and it is going to save a lot of time for me to execute all the stuff. Now when I run this, initially it is coming here, post back is false, hence the styles are applying. Good, going to the client. And now here the values are coming out. So we are right. and some password I'm sending. When I hit the login button, again it is submitting the page. That means the details are sending to the server to validate in the database. Postback is true here, so it won't execute the initial logic what you intention you put it here to only execute in the load. It is going to else part and it will print the stuff whatever you written logic here. This is what the print statements happen with response to write. So what you understand with is postback is postback only fires when the postback event occurs to the server. So it is a kind of round trip from the client to the server and then back to the client. This enables you page to go through the ASP engine on the server and any dynamic content to be updated if required. So sometimes you may wanted to update, this auto about is postback or this login button or something cancel button you want to disable it or you make some color clicking on this login, right? You can do that in the inside of logic here itself, right? Suppose I'm clicking on this, right? So very initially, right, btn cancel dot for color, right, equal to this is something I'm setting this as red and btn cancel dot uh, enable false. So now once you click on the button, I'm going to set it as this is white, right? And this is true. Now see what happens. I'm just running this and see like while initial load, that means isPostBack is false. What is setting and what kind of logic it is executing here is this logic. Now you can see this is disabled. Click is not firing it. Right? This is not going to here. And when I give some data and some password here, clicking on login, it is coming here, right? This is postback true, coming here and executing all this stuff. And then it is changing this to back four color as white. And now the event is firing, cancel event, right? Now the event is firing now, right? This is login, this is something. This is how it is working, the postback. Okay, I hope you understand the postback purpose. So, what exactly the postback is having the logic? Why? When did we need to do that? So now going back to the auto postback, or postback is fine. It is a part of page. So this can be used to determine the page submitted to itself or not when a form is submitted back to the same page that contains it. Right? It is called a postback. ASP.NET provides a property called is postback. Right? So that is true when the page is being loaded as a result of postback, and it is false otherwise. So now the coming to the auto postback, right? If we wanted to do a auto postback, we must have some server-side controls. Or if you wanted to have a more understanding on that, so let me try another example. If you wanted to do that on no kind of auto postback or postback, simple thing is so I'll be writing some event, right? Based on this, if you wanted to apply some events, you can write here events on click event, right? um, Login click, right? Here on click is cancel click, right? Here you can write those control events. Clicking on a button click, it is going here, and here you can write the event. If you want, you can write the event, click event, right? So I think we'll see that events, and after we explaining the event handler parameters, I think that time you can have some idea on how it is performing. I think it will get confuse you if I directly start writing up event. So I think we will wrap up this post back discussion here. So this is simple, initially having false, and when you submit back to page, it is having true, and whatever logic you wanted to dynamically update some content on my page. Let us say like when I first successfully log in into this system, I wanted to update some data on my logo or titles and the footer and header part on my page. Then I have to write code in this particular area instead of individual control click event. so that I'll get the data from database and I'll only put it here. This part of code will only execute when the postback happens to server. Okay, let me get into auto postback. So to put auto postback, I think we need to have some controls, right? So what I will do is I'll go to my ASP page and I'll put some controls. Okay, so postback happens when data is sent to the server, that we understood like how it is happening it, right? And when we have a auto postback to the control, if this property of control is true, right, it helps you to post as soon as data change or event occurs in the client side. If we create a web page with some controls having this property like auto postback, every web control will have their own auto postback property in ASP.NET. So this ASP.NET adds a special JavaScript function to the rendered HTML page. This function is named as underscore do postback. When called, it triggers a postback, sending data back to the web server. Okay, let us see that. Like designing a page, I'll remove this stuff, or I'll create another page if we require. Going here, add another page. That would be very good. So new item, the page 2. I will make this as a startup page, set as a startup page, so that it will, consider as a starting page when you start running of your website. Now here, I wanted to put some controls. I'll have some controls in somewhere. Okay, so I wanted to put these controls. Okay, later you will see like what is happening. And here it is. So I'll put these controls. Okay, here I just having a text box with auto postback true and checkbox with auto postback true and radio button with auto postback true, and here I have a list box with auto postback, no auto postback basically for this control. Okay, this is list of events, right? And these are the controls. I have auto postback true, and on text change I have event. Okay, I'll write that event definition in server side. So this is closing web page 1 and I'm going to the web page 2 server side. Okay, I'll have that server side logic also inside of it. I'll keep as it is. Okay, if you look at here, I have a function log where it is accepting input as string and it is just adding that string to a list. So list box is here, which is of ID is list events. So using that, I'm just adding items to that. Okay, and then I'm setting index as kind of a last item. Okay, now in this change event, so another thing is I just mentioned here is a control on check to change, on check to change. So checkbox we have on check to change, and for the text box we have on text changed, right? And radio button anyway we have on check to change as like checkbox, right? For this I just mentioned control changed, right? And this is the event I written protected void control changed, and these are the two parameters by default. We have an ASP.NET for each and every event handler. Okay, I will explain in the next session like about event handler and the parameters we used to have inside of function, right? So here what I'm doing is I'm just taking the value of control, like because same function I mentioned here for all controls. So I just wanted to know that what the control is changed, right? So using this sender, right, you can get the control ID here. That control ID I'm send it to log method. Again, log method is going to add into my list items. Okay, and again by default in the page load I'm just adding page load, and this is page render. After that I'm just adding page render. Okay, so it is too late to change right now. When I run this, or before that, you see like what is UI looks like for the auto post back. This is what auto postback, no, the demo form looks like. This text box, checkbox, radio buttons too, A list of events is the header, and this is the list box. Default no values. So any control that has its auto postback properties, set it to true, right? It's connected to the underscore do postback method. Now, when I run this, okay, you will see underscore do postback method is going to append it to your HTML. Let's see like what is that and what was the code it is inside having it, right? So in other words, ASP.NET automatically changes the client-side JavaScript event into server-side ASP.NET event using the underscore do postback, right? So as it is the UI, we are seeing it, right? Now, if you want to see the logic view page source, we can see that do postback is generated here. Okay, so this underscore do postback by default ASP dot will get generated based on the control auto postback property is true. Okay, so I set it all these control, auto postback true. Hence, on change event, it is firing this underscore do postback. All this, all these controls by default it is adding, right? But when it comes to here in the list box, I have not mentioned auto postback. Hence, it is not added any event to the list box control. Okay, so what this event is doing is this is simply, special JavaScript rendered to the HTML page. This function named do postback, which accepts two parameters, target and argument. So when do postback is called, right, it triggers a postback event. So when this invokes, uh, the postback event is firing, right? That means server side page load is getting to fire, right? So ASP.NET generates this function do postback automatically, provided at least one control on the page uses automatic postback. Any control that has its auto postback property was set to true, which connected to the do postback function using the onClick or onChange attributes. These attributes indicates what actions should browser takes in response to the client-side JavaScript events, right? So if you wanted to see the life cycle, like how it is firing, right? I'll just open my other whiteboard and see like how the life cycle is happening. Life cycle of web pages regarding auto postback, right? So this first phase, right? The event here is like, to work with ASP.NET Web Control events, we need a solid understanding of the web page lifecycle, right? So first one is on the client side event, it is firing, right? So client side event is nothing but do postback. So that's what I mentioned, right? Let me come here. And the client side, the JavaScript do postback, right? This is invoke. So, and the page is resubmitted to the server, right? So ASP.NET retrieves state information from the hidden view, right? So here ASP.NET recreates the page object using the .aspx file. And third is ASP.NET receives state information from the hidden view state update the controls accordingly. Fourth is page load event is fired, right? And that appropriate change event is fired for the control, right? Next one is page render. That is page pre-render. This event will fire. So when the page is rendered, right, transformed the form set of objects to HTML page. And the finally, right, page unload is firing. So the new page is sent to the client. To watch these events in action, right, we create a simple application here. No, we'll see that how it is working. So when I open this, whatever we have already created here, the screen, right? Where is that? Try to run again. So now when I change something here, sample, right? And typing and pressing tab, it is changing, right? So page load fire, page render, like page load, this log was added, right? And then page load, and then page rendered, right? This is page rendered, and again page load fire, and again text change. Now page pre-render. So refresh it. We'll see what is happening now. Let me come from. So when I run again freshly, page load is going to fire. Then this is going to add to my list box, right? Page load is fired, and again this also fired pre-rendered. So this also logs into my list box, right? I think when I change something, right? Sample text. When I press that, it is again firing page load, and then text load, then page pre-render, right? This always fires in the last. Okay. When I check box, again page load fired, check event fired, because the control change event is firing for every control, and with that I'm getting the ID, and that ID I'm passing it to this log method. And again pre-render. Option button, same thing. Option 2, same thing. Right? Again, if you fire again, this is firing again text changed. So what I'm trying to say here is this auto post back will automatically fire us. If you want to tag this, just do one thing. Go back here, your page, auto post back, and this is the event, right? When I change something, right, it is coming here, and it is taking the event target and event argument, and it is checking the form on submit not equal to false, and setting value target values for event target and event argument, and then it is submitting the page. You put debugger here. When this thing is firing here, right? Where is that? This one. Then my page is submitting to postback. Now page is submitted, and this is coming here. It is added, and coming to here change event, because we have mentioned every control. On check to change and on text changed. Same method we are calling it. That method is automatically calling, and here it is taking control name and it is adding to text box. The thing is this auto post back, right? So if it control value auto post back is set to true, it helps you to post the data change event on the control, or some event occurs to the server. If we create a web page which consists of one or more web controls that are configured to use auto post back, every web control will have that. The ASP.NET adds a special JavaScript here as like this to post back, right? And this anyway the different thing actually adding it to your page when you set run it equal server, right? This postback event is going to be automatically generated by ASP.NET, right? So this will fire and change event of your control, and then it will automatically submit the postbacks. Any control that has its AutoPostBack property set to true, then and I underscore do postback function using the on click or on change attributes. Here we have defined this to on text change, right? On text on check. These are the some events we have mentioned this events, right? So before firing this event, it is firing the AutoPostBack. That means first it will send data to a page, and then it will send it to the concerned event, right? In other words, if you can say, these attributes indicates what action should browser take in response to the client side JavaScript event click, on click or on change, right? In other words, ASP.NET automatically changes client side JavaScript event to a server side ASP.NET event using underscore to postback function as an intermediary, right? So all these events are firing based on the auto postback, right? So this is something about auto postback, which is part of control property, right? You can set it to any server-side control, this auto postback property. When any change event or any click event happens to any page here, right? This auto postback will fire the, submits the page to server. Okay, before firing this event. Okay, I hope you understand how auto postback is, firing the postback via a JavaScript, right? Like this one, do a postback. Okay, so thanks for listening to this video, and I hope you understand the demonstration part of isPostBack, which is a page level property, and auto postback, which is control level property. Okay, thanks for listening to this video, and please subscribe to the channel for more videos.